My name is Charlie Gruler, and I'm here for the Firestone High School Robotics Competition with VEX Robotics. I'm going to take a moment to explain to you a little bit how this game works, because there's a lot going on, and it's important to know what's going on, because that makes the game just so much more exciting and investing, and it makes it more interesting as a spectator experience. So there are three main scoring elements as far as this game goes. There are these yellow plastic balls. They're about yay big, and they are used to change the flags over there from one color to the next. They start either in the blue position. They start in the blue position on the left side, the red position on the right side, and they start about halfway in the middle. And it's up to each team to knock those flags into their color. So the top two flags are each worth 2 points, and the bottom flag is only worth 1 point. That's because the bottom flag can be moved by a robot rather than a ball, and the game rewards the skill of being able to shoot a ball, as you can see over there. And so that's one of the main scoring elements. The next one is these caps. So these plastic caps right here flip between the red and blue colors. You'll notice that as a theme, red and blue. Depending on which color is showing, that team scores points. You score points if your team's color is facing up. And note that when you score, the cap must be with this circle part facing the ground. It cannot be cocked like this. That does not count for points. Or if it's flipped over on the red side, the red team will score points. And you can also score by setting them on top of these posts here. There are 3 on each side, 2 lower and 1 higher, and that scores you more points. You score more points if you're able to stack them on top. That's the second main scoring mode. And the third main scoring mode is my favorite, the most exciting. It's those 3 squares in the center. There's one for the red team, one for the blue team, and a yellow one that both teams can use. You score 3 points if you're able to get yourself on top of that square. But if you're able to get yourself on top of the yellow square, that means that you score, I think, 6 points. I'll have to refresh the point totals, but you score more points for getting on the top yellow square. And you'll see at the end of the match, you'll see the teams sort of fighting it out for possession of sitting on top of that yellow square. And teams will either go for speed, getting themselves up there and being able to hold them off, or go for power and pushing teams off that are up there. There are 2 different strategies as far as that goes, and it's exciting to see how it plays out every single match. And note that you only do score points if you're on that square at the end of the match. So once the match concludes, whoever's on the square the most scores the points. If you're touching the ground or the other colored square, you do not score the points for the yellow square. And then just a bit more information about the game. The game is played within a time span of 2 minutes. The first 15 seconds are the robot controlling itself. The robot has been programmed by the team to make actions by itself and to perform opportunities by itself. It cannot cross that double white line in the center during the autonomous period, but after that, everything is fair game. So you'll see a lot of teams will go for high scoring points during the autonomous, and that can really help them out in the early game. And then the winner of that autonomous gets 4 extra points added onto their total for winning that period. Then the next 1 minute and 45 seconds is controlled by a driver with a controller. As you can see, robots around here are being driven around by users with controllers. And that's when teams will really go for stacking those on the high goal and go for shooting balls into the flags to flip them. You'll see a lot of teams go for higher scoring options during that point because they have control. If they miss, they can reset. Whereas when the robot is controlling itself, it doesn't know that it's missed. It just keeps moving on. So if you see a team score big during the autonomous period, that's really exciting. That's something that keeps the game really interesting and fresh.
I don't care if it's right. It's the same way all the time.
I'm Erica Kraus for the Firestone High School Robotics program.
And I'm Charlie Gruler. I'm also here for that.
So we're here giving you, in the moment, callback of what's going on in our competition here. So this is a qualification competition for VEX Robotics. This year the game is called Turning Point, and in a minute Charlie's going to explain the rules to us. And
yes.
So right now we have, how many teams do we have here today?
We have 40 teams here today competing to win the competition and win a variety of other awards.
Yeah, and it's a qualifying match for states. So the students that win the top prizes, it's first, second, third place, and then special prizes like the design and judges awards will go on to state competition where they'll have the opportunity to qualify for world competition.
Absolutely.
So the specific design challenges that the students that are going through to win this competition, there are actually a couple in this game. Every year VEX tries to focus on a few different learning points for people. So this one here is learning about intake devices to pick up these balls, and then a lot of students use flywheels or other systems to throw the balls across the field because the top, oh, there you can see one hit the net.
Yes.
Because the top flags can only be scored by throwing balls at them. The robot is not allowed to touch them. So they have to pick up these balls and shoot them. So they learn a little bit about ballistics and how to aim properly with their robots, and really how to build the intake the intake throwing system to really be more accurate, because it takes up time in the match.
And another interesting note, a way that this game differs from older ones is that you cannot cross that center, double center line. So where that double line is, you are during the autonomous period, you are not allowed to cross it. Otherwise, you are immediately disqualified from winning the autonomous period, and you are unable to receive the 4-point bonus, even if you score more points than your opponents. Another design challenge that the teams face is that they have to keep their robot within an 18 by 18 by 18 inch cube. So that means they have a foot and a half to work with in each direction, and they can only expand outside of that when they're inside those little L and J-shaped corners in their corner, where they are able to then expand to be able to stack those caps onto those scoring rods, I suppose would be the word to call that. So I actually have the points pulled up. The two higher flags are worth 2 points each if they are in your color. The lower flags are worth 1 point. The caps are worth 1 point if they're facing upwards in your color, and they're worth 2 points if they're stacked on one of those 6 posts. Posts is a better word. And you score 3 points if you are on your color of parking square. So those are the squares in the center. So you earn 3 points if you are within the parking square, and you earn 6 points if you are the team that is able to claim the yellow parking square in the middle. If you are on that square and not touching the ground or or either of the other parking squares, you gain 6 points, which is huge in this game. So that's the biggest, most point-scoring single thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. So that's another design challenge that seems to be very big for some of the teams this year, specifically to get over those humps. It looks like each of the scoring platforms is perhaps 2.5 inches in diameter off of the tubes off the ground. So having to get on top of that and then on top of another platform really is a design challenge for building their drivetrains.
Yes, and you'll see at the end of the match, especially in the high-level games, you get almost like a sumo wrestling match in the center to try and push each other off and claim control of that zone, because it is such an influential scoring point. It can really turn the tide of the match. And I think that's sort of the challenge or the central theme that this year's game has sort of based on in the name Turning Point, that each of the scoring objects is scored either for one person or for the other. It's you flip-flop, and so taking points for yourself takes points away from your opponents. And we will be right back with the playoff round of this competition.
All right, so right now we are moving into alliance selections. What this means is that we take the top 16 teams at the competition, and they choose another team that they want to be paired up with. Now in the qualification rounds, everyone is randomly selected to be on teams so that everything is fair and you can show off what your robot can do. During those times, most teams will have a representative in the crowd known as a scout that will look out and see what robots can do what they can't. Ideally, you choose a robot that is very highly skilled, you have a good driver, a good team behind it, but also can do things you can't. So if your robot is really, really good at throwing the balls and scoring on the flags, you want to pair up with a team that is really good at flipping the caps and hanging them on the posts.
Yeah, a really interesting thing that they've changed from this year to last year is that they've actually increased the number of teams by 8 that actually get to select alliances. So originally 8 teams would go up to the front, and each of those 8 teams would choose 2 other partners. So there would be an alliance of 3 teams, and you would compete by switching teams out. But this year they've changed it so that now not only are there more teams that get to participate in the playoff rounds, we also we also get to see teams pick other teams to alliance with in a way that allows them to really build a game strategy, so that they can use that kind of a strategy rather than having to sort of jerry-rig certain play styles with other teams that they're sort of forced to select, because it comes down to the bottom of the barrel, teams that you don't necessarily want to pick, teams that aren't able to accomplish as much as some of the other people. So that really gives an advantage to the top teams to be able to pick a team that really fits their play style and allows them to win in a really successful and meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts out with the top teams getting to choose who they want to be able to align with. So the top team right now is a team from the National Inventors Hall of Fame School, known as the Order of the Dark Oats, I believe. So they are selecting which teams they want to be with. It looks like they are selecting a team from their own school, which is great strategy for a lot of teams to select them.
Yeah, you can really find some synergy between the teams. You already know what they can do, and you're already good at working with them.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of groups that will work together when they practice and when they set up for their actual competition. When they're in practice fields, they plan to align with each other prior to the game if any of them get a chance to align, simply because it will allow not just their team to move on to the next competition if they qualify, but they also know exactly the way that the other team works, so they can have a game strategy before they walk into competition.
It is a single elimination game, which means that the playoff brackets go more quickly, and it allows for more teams in that playoff scene to play for the top spot. So once you get out of the qualification rounds, all of the teams that compete, the first seed goes against the last seed, and they match up that way: first against 16th, second against 15th, and so on. And then once those rounds starts, they sort of start to go off quickly, and then teams advance to the round of 8, which is typically a quarterfinal scene, then the round of 4, which is a typical semifinal, and then the round of 2 or a final. And then the winning team will be declared after that, and the winning alliance will see both of those teams qualify for the state level competition.
Yeah, and it looks like they were moving pretty quickly through the competition. It looks like they, so what happens now, a team just turned down an alliance from a team that was ranked higher than them because they clearly have another game plan. However, this means that whoever they choose next has to say yes. So if you turn down your first alliance, you're required to take your second alliance if you get asked. So it's very important for the scouts that are in the crowd to actually go and network with the other scouts so that they can set up things and avoid being put on a team that they feel isn't going to be as successful for them.
Absolutely. And so there are definitely some constraints on saying no in terms of the alliance selection, but if you're really gunning for a specific strategy, it is definitely something you can do, especially if you're sitting closer to the top of the bracket. Once you get to the lower end, especially once teams are being picked out of the teams that aren't already qualified, you'll see a lot more teams who say yes just because they want a chance in the playoff bracket regardless, because, any chance is better than no chance.
Mm-hmm. So while they're finishing up their alliances and putting everything into the computer, we're going to give you a quick rundown of everyone that's here. So we actually have a lot of schools from all over Ohio. We have Shaker Heights High School, Laurel School, Trumbull Career and Technical Center, Pickerington High School, Firestone CLC, Mahoning County Career and Tech Center, Lutheran West High School, Hawkins School, Cleveland Heights High School, the National Inventor Hall of Fame Middle School, Austintown Fitch High School, Cleveland Heights High School, the National Inventor Hall of Fame High School, Cleveland Heights High School. Oh, looks like they have them listed here twice in different areas.
Yes.
And the Akron Kenmore Garfield High School.
Yeah, we have a lot of representation from a lot of different schools in the area, some even coming as far as Pickerington. So we definitely, the competition here draws teams specifically out of this area, and it's definitely, it's a big draw for teams to come and try and get that state's qualification.
So we're going to take a little break right before they start the final matches, and we'll be back with coverage of that, so stay tuned. Looks like we're about to start the first octafinal match.
Oh my goodness.
Over on, what is that, Field B?
Yeah, it's red and green, so we're starting on the green field.
All right.
So you can see, I think on the red, or on the blue side actually, we have the alliance of two Tiger Tech teams. Tiger Tech is the name used for the Pickerington High School robotics program. So you've got two Tiger Tech teams on the blue alliance, and on the red alliance, let me see if I can find the playoffs bracket for, yes, here we go. We have the round of 16 right here. So the first match is going to be the, which one's up right now? It's,
Oh, I'm still trying to find the
Pickerington
playoffs
is
bracket.
6-7-4-1.
Oh, yes. 16-1. It's going to be the National Inventor Hall of Fame High School, two teams from them, teams A and B, against teams from, let's see, 7882E. That is one of our Mahoning County Career and Tech Centers, and 79230B. And that is one of our Akron Kenmore Garfield High School teams.
Yeah. So actually, this match is on the red field. I apologize for my misspeaking earlier. So the red field is the match that's going on right now. The green field will be the second round match. So what you'll see is that as of right now, the first seed is the red side. And you'll see, especially in a lot of these earlier matches, and especially in round of 16 matches, or octafinals, as we have so lovingly dubbed them, you will see that the higher seeded alliance, in this case the red alliance, will prove themselves to be much more competent than the lower seeded alliance. You know, there's a reason that they won most of their qualifying matches and are in the position that they are. But if you can see a lower team upset one of the higher teams, they have no way of coming back into it. It's single elimination. If they don't prove their worth in the first match, they're out. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic. It can, you know, really create some exciting storylines as far as teams who've been ranked lower in the competition going really far in the competition bracket. So as of right now, we see the red team focusing on flipping over a lot of those caps on the field. They're trying to get them scored into the red, and you'll see the blue team is currently trying to stop them from doing that and trying to flip the lower flags over towards their side.
They've got about 30 seconds left. It looks like the flags mostly are facing red, so you can see the side that is facing towards the field, towards the front of the field, is the side that scores. And those are, what, 2 points apiece?
2 points for the higher two flags and 1 point for the lower flags. As you can see, it doesn't appear as if the red or the blue team has any consistent way of flipping the flags over, and so that means that all of the high flags are going to be scored in red's favor, which is, you know, really an important mechanic. And red not only has parked in their own square, but they've also parked in the 6-point square, which means that their point totals at the end of this match, now that it's ended, they will get, you know, judged by the judges to see if they've truly scored those points, although from here it definitely looks as if they are solidly in those squares.
It looks as though one of the blue robots actually flipped over on its back. We call that turtling, and it looks like it's very hard to get out of that position.
For a lot of teams, it can be incredibly difficult to get yourself back up once your robot has flipped, because robots are typically built with the center of gravity being very low, you know, to prevent flipping. But once the robot does flip, that means the center of gravity is now very high, and it's even more difficult to flip it back over. Some teams will develop mechanics to prevent them rather than trying to reverse the turtling that has happened. So you'll definitely see some of that come into play, especially on the higher levels. But it does appear as if the Red Alliance is going to win this match. They have both of their parks and all of the high flags flipped in their favor.
So it looks like we've just finished the autonomous period on the green field. So it looks like they're counting up points now. The autonomous bonus is a 4-point bonus.
Yes.
To whichever team scores the most points during a 15-second pre-programmed position. So it looks like the blue team took the autonomous.
Yes.
That's 4 points for them to start, plus whatever points that they've scored now, should they manage to keep those points.
So an interesting note, something I think I failed to mention earlier, is that if you end the autonomous period in one of the parking squares, you also get those points towards your autonomous period. So you'll see a lot of teams go for that because that's a really easy 3 points you can do. You pretty much just have to drive in a straight line up onto that build platform. So that's something that you're going to see a lot of teams do in autonomous, especially moving forward. But the blue team was also able to reverse one of the high flags in their direction, flipping it from red over to blue, which turned the tide for them in order to be able to win the autonomous. And they've actually now turned all three on their side towards blue. The flags actually start in the opposite of the side that they're on, so that it gives that team an opportunity to flip the flags that are on their side, rather than having to go over to the other side just to score those points.
So it looks like we have two teams. You can see them in the purple that are from the same school. They are from Pickerington High School. Their teams are Tiger Tech teams D and C. And on the other team, we have, let's see, looks like Austintown Fitch High School, Team A. And we have Cleveland Heights School, Heights Robotics Club 5.
So the red alliance is going to be facing off against the blue alliance. Now note, the blue alliance is the second seeded team. They were the teams placed 3rd and 5th after the qualifying rounds respectively. After the first team picked the second team, that team in 3rd place moved up to 2nd, was able to pick their Tiger Tech team as well, and are now again showing their dominance. They're getting those top flags flipped over, they're getting the caps flipped over, and they're going to get that high park. Now the red's going to try and push them off, but they only have 3 seconds to do it, and it doesn't look as if they're going to be able to do that. So getting both of those parks for the blue alliance and all of the high flags in their favor, I think less 1. That's going to be definitely a very menacing scoreline in order for the Red Alliance to sort of pull that score back. So it looks as if the Blue Alliance, the second seeded team over the 15th, is going to take the second match.
Now on our other field, the match that we just saw before between our teams from the STEM High School and the teams from, looking at numbers. Our teams from the Akron Kenmore Garfield High School and the, and the Mahoning County Career Tech Center. The final score was 30 on the red team and 5 to the blue team. So the National Inventor Hall of Fame STEM High School Alliance will be moving forward to quarterfinals.
Absolutely. So you can now see the scoreline on the television in the center, but in case you can't, the first match went red scored 30 points and the Blue Alliance scored 5. We should shortly have the score of the second match as it gets updated for us, but it has not yet come in. We're starting, I think, the third match relatively soon. We will be starting that on the red field. And you'll see the Red Alliance will be taking on the Blue Alliance. In this match, the Red Alliance consists of 7316T, Firestone High School, and 7882C, which is the Engineers number 3 from Mahoning County Career and Tech Center. And they will be squaring up against teams 8315B, Robotic Longhorns from Lutheran West High School, and 5293B, 5293B being the team from Trumbull Career and Technical Center. So after the autonomous period, the red team is going to take the points for that, so they'll get a 4-point bonus to their score as they were able to, I think, flip a flag. So we will see, moving on from here, how the score plays out.
Now, as you might notice, some robots on certain alliances, they'll have some that are focused on just caps and some that are focused on turning flags. That's a good balanced alliance to have so that you can share the points. You can also see over here that right now all of the robots are focusing almost entirely on caps. Caps do give a few more points and are more consistent than balls because you know that you do, in fact, flip them to one side or the other, where when you shoot the balls, it can be a little bit harder because you need to be able to aim and hit the flags. And if you don't hit, that's a good 5 to 10 seconds that you spent picking up a ball and aiming that you don't get any points for.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you'll see a number of teams going just for those, just for points involving caps. And as of right now, it seems as if the Blue Alliance is trying to stack some caps up there. You'll see one of them failing to pick it up, but at least they flipped it in their favor. And the Red Alliance has done a little bit of flag flipping, although it's
looks like they're descoring right now. You can see that they have a little motor on their actual arm to flip just the cap. So they've taken off of a post, flipped it over, and scored it for themselves.
Absolutely. So every element of this game is about turning score from the opponent into yours. Now with 15 seconds left, it seems like the Red Alliance is going to take that top spot. We're going to see if anyone else is going to be able to wrestle them off of that, but with only 8 seconds left, it looks like they're going to go relatively uncontested, and the Red Alliance member is actually trying to get up onto that red square.
Oh, the Blue Alliance tried to rescore the cap in their favor, but they knocked it out of the field. So while that means that the red team will not gain any points, the blue team does not gain those points either. In fact, I do believe that since it was red and it fell out, it will end up being a low-scoring cap on the floor.
Yes, so when things like caps or balls are shot out of the arena, which in this game tends to happen sometimes, they are placed back inside the arena in the state they were most recently in. So if they were on the if they're on the pole and then they fall off later, they're placed back on the pole. So if a team tries to like flip it off and it goes out, it's placed back onto the pole. If they're able to pull it off, but it then goes out, it is returned to the floor for the team that had it scored previously. So that team grabbed it and then it fell out, but it was returned as a red scoring cap. It looks as if right now most of the caps are scored for the red side. I see one for the blue, and some of the higher flags for the blue side, but the lower flags seem to be predominantly red, as well as a couple of the higher flags on that one side. It doesn't seem as if actually any of the high flags really changed position from their starting. So the game's mostly going to be parking and caps reliant. So that's going to be 5 caps low scored to 3, red to blue, and red got both of the parks. So it looks as if red's going to be taking that round. The points are in on, I think that's the second qualifying match, which also went 30-5. No, I think
that's still the first one. So we're waiting to find that out. We'll see you in updates. They might be having some points contested, so they're back there checking on a few things, and then they'll upload the information for us. But it looks like the second round is in. Oh, now we have both rounds. So the second match was 7-23. So the blue team that was made up of 2 teams from the Pickerington High School Tiger Tech teams will be moving on to quarterfinals. And in the match that we just watched, the third match, the red team got 21-8. So those teams will be moving on. That's a Firestone High School Team T and a Mahoning County Careers Tech Center Engineers Team E. Or Team C.
Yes, so with the first 3 rounds in the bag, we're moving on to the 4th round. Over on the green field, the autonomous period is starting now. So we see the Red Alliance going to flip a cap. They're going to be able to pick it up with a ball still on it. They're going to move it upwards, and oh no, it's going to fall out of the field. They were trying to score it on that higher post, but they were unable to do so. So that's going to get pushed back in as a blue scored object because red threw it out and it was previously scored for the blue side. So the blue team is going to take autonomous, granting them that 4-point bonus, and we're going to move on to the driver period. Red team going for a high cap score. They're not going to quite get it, although they're trying again, and now they're going to score that cap. So that means that the Red Alliance has an advantage moving forward, although the Blue Alliance has flipped one of their low flags, which doesn't neutralize those points, but it helps them back in their favor.
It looks like the red team has also managed to flip the entire post of blue flags on the left, but it looks like one of the blue teams is looking to de-score that cap that they just placed on top of a post. But it looks like they flipped it off and it landed inside the red area with a cap red up. So it will still be counting towards red, just not as much.
The Red Alliance has claimed all the flags on the left and the middle pole, so that's definitely going to be an advantage in their favor. That's 10 points in their favor, neutralizing the 3 neutral flags in the center and all of the blue flags. So that's going to be taking all of those points away from them. Team 73160 flipping the final flag for them to claim all 9 of those flags.
Yes. And they have about 40 seconds left. So it looks like they're at this point just blocking the blue team from getting to the posts so that they can keep them from scoring those points back. Blue scored 1 back, but blue will have to start shooting some balls to knock off the flags at the top, while the red is just going around and sweeping up to make sure that the caps get flipped back in their favor and make sure that the flags stay the way they need them to be.
See, red's going, it seems as if red's got a ball ready for another shot, although there isn't much of a target left for them to shoot at. They are, however, looking to try and take control of those middle platforms, although they're not going to get there in time. It seems as if they weren't even going to try to climb on the top. They are confident in their victory regardless of their flags. You see the Team 7316E in the pink shirts are trying to hype up the Firestone-dominated audience and get them cheering for their victory.
So we'll find out the actual scoring of that, but we're going to move right back to the red field again. And we'll be seeing teams from the National Inventor Hall of Fame School, Team E, team from the Mahoning County Career Center, Team A, versus on the blue team, we'll have a team from the Shaker Heights High School, and a team from the Cleveland Heights High School working together. So autonomous has just started, and we can see that some of them are having a little bit of an issue. It looked like
yes,
one ran into the wall.
There was a false start, actually, so it didn't quite start properly on time. But the technical issues were worked out, and they were able to start their autonomous. The red team was able to flip one of the caps, so they're going to win, although, as you did mention, one of those red alliances drove up on the wall a little bit, which can get a little scary. If you flip over, that could potentially be game over for your robot, and that makes it much more difficult for your alliance to pull through into a victory.
Yes. So it looks like the blue team has a robot that is just focused entirely on flipping caps. It's a very small one, so it looks like it can move very fast, so speeding around the field can be a great advantage when you're trying to de-score other teams' points. One of the red team robots is focusing on flipping those flags. Remember, the top two can only be changed by a ball being shot at it. They're not allowed to change those manually with the robot.
Yes, so the rule about expansion into the 18 by 18 by 18 cube is in effect outside of that, outside of their corners, so they aren't even allowed to expand up to be able to touch them. But the rule was added that they must use the balls to shoot them because there were some teams trying some hijinks with other methods of flipping the flags. And that was not the way the game was intended to be played, so the rules were changed to suit such a play style.
It looks like the red team is sweeping up with one team focusing on shooting balls and the other one very quickly flipping all of the caps back from blue. So it looks like they might take this match as they're running out of things to score, actually.
Yes, with only 20 seconds left, it seems as if it looks like there's only 1 or 2 flags left for them to flip. I don't quite have vision on the column on the left, but yeah, they only have 2 flags left for them to be able to flip, and they're going to go for that high park. That 6 points can definitely be important, especially when blue is looking to be unable to flip some of these caps. They're going to get both of those high parks. The one lower scores 3 points, and the higher one scores 6 points. So that's 9 points just in those finishing zones, and that's going to be, man, really just a dominant victory from the red side. Blue only scored, it looks like, 2 caps. 2 caps and 1 high flag, so that's going to be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 points maybe for blue, and red scored pretty much all of the other points.
So we're going to switch back over to the green field. The last match we saw, not the one we just finished on the red field, but the last green match field was a scoring 18-7 red team. So the 2 teams from the Firestone High School Engineering Club will be moving on to quarterfinals. This team that we are seeing now is actually on the blue side, 2 teams from the Firestone High School Robotics Club against 1 team from the Firestone High School Robotics Club aligned with one of the teams from the National Inventor Hall of Fame Club. Blue team just got autonomous, so they're starting driver control right now, and we will see how this goes.
Yeah, this match features 3 out of the 4 teams being from Firestone High School, which means at least 1 more team will be moving on to the quarterfinals from the Firestone High School. You see on the Red Alliance, that robot down there is moving really, really fast, just at blazing speeds, and they're going to be able to flip some of those red caps over. But the blue team seems to be focusing mainly on shooting at the flags for right now. They've flipped 1 on the right pole, and they flipped only 1 actually of the high flags in the center pole.
Mm-hmm. So the lighter your robot is typically, the faster you're able to move. So when some teams only focus on one or the other, either shooting at the goals or flipping the caps, they're able to move a lot faster to do their one job. So there are some drawbacks to building a robot that can do all of the tasks that are asked of it. It looks like the red team just forced the blue team to knock a cap out of the field, so the red team is playing pretty offensively.
Yes, you can see they seem to be taking the strategy that the best defense is a good offense, and they are actually preventing the blue team from being able to score those points. And you see that cap got put back in as a red cap. So that's definitely a very good strategy for quick robots to have. They can, race back across the field in less than a second and bump those caps out of the hands of the other team's robot. This
Nope.
match seems to be getting pretty close, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a pretty tight match. They are very rapidly moving back and forth between things. They have about 10 seconds left, so we'll see if they manage to get up on those platforms. The red has managed to get up onto the first platform. It looks like they're going to stay there instead of getting onto the yellow. Oh, it looks like
and
they
slid
fell
down.
off.
Yeah.
It looks like maybe from here that the blue team may have given them a little push.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, keeping the teams off of those parking platforms is definitely very important. So if that robot is touching the gray I don't know,
Tiles?
field, yeah, tiles, the gray field, they aren't going to score the points for being up on that platform. You have to have your entire robot elevated onto the platform in order for it to count. It has to hold, even when the robots stop moving, it has to hold itself on that platform. Otherwise, you won't score those points. And that's definitely a very good move from Blue to push them off at the very end, leaving them no time to get themselves back on the platform.
Now, back on the red field where we just had our last match, the scores have come in, and it is match 16-5. It is red team 29 to blue team 4. So we'll be moving back to the red field for our next round, where we'll have two teams from the Tiger Tech Pickerington High School and a team from, a team from the Laurels School paired up with a team from the Trumbull Career and Technical Center.
That is definitely a very interesting school name. It's not the easiest to pronounce.
Not at all.
Yeah, so we'll see the red match beginning quite soon, actually, as they set up on the field. One of the advantages of having two fields like this and not playing best-of-3 matches means that you can just flip back and forth, and one field gets reset as the other field is getting played on. It means that there's almost no break in between matches, just enough time for the teams to be able to set themselves up, recheck themselves mentally, and make sure that they're really in the game.
Yes, and it's really take a moment to say a little shout out to our field resetters. They are the Firestone High School Booster Kids Club, and they are our students that are just running around and very quickly resetting the field. They've been trained how to set up the field properly so that it's set up evenly and fairly each time, and you'll see them running back and forth between the fields, just prepping them.
Absolutely adorable. I may be a little biased because my little brother is a member of that resetting team, but I do think it's quite interesting to watch. But over on the red field, we've got the match's autonomous period starting. We see that the blue team has flipped one of the flags. I'm not sure if the red team has done the same, but we'll see that the autonomous period will probably be decided by that. And the red team being able to flip one of those high flags will definitely be able to score the points required to win the autonomous period.
So we're watching now in driver mode. It looks like we have two robots on the blue team that are focused on flipping. It looks like one may be able to pick up some of the balls and shoot, but we'll find out in a moment. And the red team just flipped a couple more flags in the high goals, so they are definitely focused on shooting.
Absolutely. Shooting seems to be a pretty common strategy because of all the points you can score from it. You can score 12 points from the high stacks, which is all from shooting the balls, as opposed to, I don't know, I think it's actually 12 for the caps as well. So both of them are pretty much equal strategies, but I think shooting the balls seems to be the one I see more of the top teams going for. You see, teams that can shoot the balls well tend to end up, towards the top of the bracket.
Yes, so actually VEX Robotics works together with programs like Project Lead the Way, which is a program that we have here at Firestone as well. And one of the big points in curriculum is focused on ballistics and teaching students to understand how to shoot things accurately. So it looks like in the past couple of years, a lot of their games between toss-up and nothing but net, they've been focusing on trying to integrate ballistics into their game. It looks like this year they decided to implement a net in the back, which is very nice instead of shooting balls everywhere.
Absolutely.
Our boosters children's teams that were resetting the field were having a lot more fun in the past years, having to run around all over the place to pick up the balls for those.
Absolutely. A game we played a couple years back called Nothing But Net was actually a game centered almost exclusively around shooting balls into a high goal and a low goal. And so this game has a lot of elements that mirror that, although with higher precision shooting, although the balls are a little more regular and a little more easy to control. So I'm definitely a big fan of of integrating ballistics into these games. It's challenging math to do, and it's definitely a very difficult problem to solve. But one that if you know your way around ballistic problems, you can do the math for it. You can figure it out, and things actually can work out pretty well in your favor if you're able to do that work.
Yeah, so it looks like we have one team that's on the that's sitting on top of the high goal. It's actually hard to see from here which team it is, so we'll find out on that match. But we're going to move on to the green field and see the autonomous that's running. The teams that are on that field right now are from, looks like we have one from the Mahoning County Career Center and one from the Cleveland Heights School. Oh, my apologies. The Austintown Fitch High School, those are the red team. And the blue team has a team from the Cleveland Heights High School and a team from Hawkins School.
Yeah,
so we're going to see how they go.
Into the driver period for that match. We see that the red team is focusing on flipping the caps. They've flipped actually a majority of the caps on the field towards their side. There are only a couple of blue caps left and one left cockeyed in the center. So they're going to continue their crew flipping over all of those caps.
Now here's an interesting strategy I'm seeing from the red team's robot. It looks like they've actually used large panels to create a wall on each side of their robot, which does add some weight. So I wonder if they plan to use those to block shooting, or if they have or if they just happen to use the pieces that are available to them to make that work.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Seeing sidewalls like that isn't something that is sort of often done, but I definitely see an advantage to it. It allows you to really easily flip the lower flags towards your side. You can just sort of drive up and push it with those. You don't have to worry about raising an arm up or using an existing part of your robot's architecture to sort of do that. It's definitely very interesting, although using steel base plates for that will add some weight, although they are weightless as they climb up to that high platform and are able to sit there. And then that added weight will make it even more difficult for another team to be able to push them off of that zone. So while the red team was unable to score a majority of the flags, they are able to get that high park very early into the game, and no one even seems to be trying to contest them in that. They are a big enough robot that if they're able to get up there, it's really, really hard to move them down.
It looks though that blue might have taken this one. They have all of the caps flipped, I can see from here, and a good number of the flags, and they stopped the red team from hopping on it. So we actually have the scores from the two previous matches, 16-06. The team between the Firestone High School teams and the Firestone High School team paired with the STEM High School. The blue team won 19-6, and in our last match, 16-7, or 16-7, the teams from Pickerington High School won 31-3.
Wow. One of those was very high scoring. The other was not nearly as high scoring. 19-6 is probably one of the lower score lines that we've seen in the, especially in the playoff brackets, but honestly, probably all day. Teams start with points scored, and reducing the number of points that are already scored for you is really just incredibly difficult. So seeing lower score lines like that is common, but you'll rarely see a team with 0 points unless the other team has really wiped the floor with them. So at the conclusion of this match 8, I think this is the last match of our octafinals round, if I'm not mistaken. And from there, we'll be moving the bracket up into the quarterfinals, where we will see things proceed pretty much how expected. So the way the bracket works is that the teams that have the high seed versus low seed matches will be sort of on the left side of the bracket, and they'll move up across that sort of line of the triangle. I don't know exactly the word. And they'll match up against teams. It's not randomly drawn who gets who in the quarterfinals, but so they'll sort of progress against higher and higher level teams until the finals. It's structured in a way so that the first and second seed teams can meet in the finals if they win all of their matches, and that just sort of increases the amount of excitement that you can get out of the finals match. Because even if you don't get that second seed team against the first seed team, or the first seed team against the second seed team, you'll get a team that's fought their way through the bracket, upsetting teams that are higher than them in terms of qualification placements and making it to the finals. So it's a system that leads definitely for an exciting finals for the spectator, no matter the outcome.
It looks like our last match of the round of 16, our octafinals, was just called. It was the blue team that won. That is a team from the Cleveland Heights High School and a team from Cleveland Heights.
Yeah, I didn't catch the score, but they did announce to the arena that the blue team
12
was
to
victorious.
21, I believe.
Oh, well, there you go. Red scoring 12, blue scoring 21.
So we'll be taking a very short break between now and the quarterfinals as they reset the field, make sure that all of the numbers are in, and then they'll call the students down to inspection, and then we'll start the quarterfinals.
Absolutely.
It looks like we are going to start on the red field with our first quarterfinals match. And this looks like it's going to be a pretty fun one as it ends up being two schools against each other. So on the red team, we have an alliance between two teams from the National Inventor Hall of Fame STEM school, teams B and A. And we have two teams on the blue team from the Pickerington High School Tiger Tech teams D and C. So Autonomous is starting now, and we'll see how that goes. I do believe these were some of our top-ranked teams during alliance selection.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is definitely going to be a very, very fun match to watch. After the autonomous period, the blue team was able to flip one of the flags towards their side, one of the high flags. I don't know if red was able to do the same. I'm not able to see.
Yeah, it looks like the red was as well. And they both managed to stand on their platforms. It looks like it might be a tie. We'll see.
We'll see. It'll depend on whether or not they were able to.
It's a tie.
It is a tie.
Looks like they had the exact same points for each one, too.
Yeah, they were able to undo the same caps and score the same flags.
So it looks like this might be a close match.
Absolutely.
We have one blue robot focusing on flipping the flags. Looks like we have the whole right side has all of the flags flipped for the blue, but the left side has all the flags flipped for red. So it looks like they're standing pretty even with each other. These teams seem fairly evenly matched as well. It looks like none of them are going for the post goals just yet with the caps. It looks like someone is knocking them over and flipping them to the right sides. But we can see the flags are being flipped back and forth. Looks like red just completed all of the flags to the red side, so that's going to count for a lot of points. But I wouldn't put it past blue to flip them all back.
Especially with 1 minute left. We're going to see if blue's able to flip any back. It seems that blue is flipping some of them back, but red gets them back again almost immediately after blue is able to take back any control of this game. The caps seem to be relatively evenly dispersed. Not too many of the caps themselves have been scored, but the red is now starting to flip all of them. And actually, as I say that, all but one have been flipped to the red side. And the one that hasn't been flipped is not scored by either team. It's sectioned against that yellow block right there, but if that circle isn't completely touching the ground, it's not scored for any points. With 22 seconds left, the blues already going to score themselves on that platform.
No, it looks like that is red. Red is stopping the blue from scoring, and blue is ramming into them, trying to get on the platform.
That's what it is. Yes, actually, I've talked to some of my some buddies of mine who are playing in this game, and teams are able to. Oh my goodness! As I say that, red is able to section themselves onto that top platform,
as well as keep the blue from scoring on that platform as well. It looks like red might have this. They have all of the flags. I can't see many caps from here, but it looks like they managed to flip a lot of them back over to red.
Yeah,
so I think we can call it that red will win this round.
It's almost certain that red's going to win this with all of the flags turned in their favor, most of the caps, and that high score, and preventing blue from even getting their low score. This is a dominant showing from red, especially against another one of the top-seeded teams. The STEM school is absolutely pulling themselves into a decisive lead going into the next semifinal round.
So on the green field now, we're about to start the autonomous round. The teams that are competing against each other, on the red team, we have Team 7316T from the Firestone High School. We have Team 7882C from Mahoning County Career and Tech Center. And on the other team, on the blue team, we have two teams from Firestone High School.
So there's 3 Firestone teams now in this quarterfinal, which means that, again, a Firestone team will be moving on to the next round. After the autonomous period, it's hard for me to tell exactly what's been scored and changed. But we will see based on the call of the judges. The red team will score. So that red team gets a 4-point bonus in their favor. which will put them in an early lead, especially because that means they also have scored more points so far. So it's going to be up to the Blue Alliance to pull themselves back into this match. They're going to score one of the low flags, but they're going to be looking to get at some of those high flags as well.
Looks like the blue team has already scored one cap on a post, and they're going for a second one. The red team is now just flipping caps back over. Now, scoring them on the posts does count for more points because it is more tricky to lift them off the ground and position them over the posts.
Yeah, so flipping those caps over will score you 2 points rather than 3. And you'll see the Blue Alliance there has a really good way of flipping those caps over. They pick up red caps and they flip them inside of their claw and then are able to stack them in that flipped manner. So that means that they have options for picking up caps that are scored in either way and scoring them up. The red team also is going to be looking to score one of them on the high goal. But Blue has definitely picked that as their favored strategy so far. They've also scored some of the flags. So Blue does seem to be at the very least contesting Red's early lead in the autonomous victory.
It looks like the red has also managed to flip a cap, but blue is trying to flip it right back on top of one of the posts. So it's all going to be a matter of speed now in the last 30 seconds. Looks like red is hastily getting to the top goal to avoid anyone else from copping on it, but they've run off of it. It looks like they want to try to score a few more points before they take their parking spot. Now, it looks like a lot of the flags might still be in neutral territory. The first, the post on either side is scored all red on one side and all blue at the beginning of the match, so they each have 3 flags to them, and the center match is going to be, the center ones are going to be neutral. Looks like we still have a couple of neutral, but it looks like red has managed to park itself on the top platform, and the blue has managed to get itself about halfway on. I don't think that's going to count for them.
It is not. So getting those high scoring parks is definitely going to turn the tide in Red's favor. With that high park and the autonomous bonus alone, that's 10 points that they've already scored in a game where the max number of points you can score is 46. So with the number of points Blue has scored, it looks as if Red is going to take this, although we're going to wait on the final judge's call as this match is closer than some of the other ones that we've seen.
In the last match, the first quarterfinals, the one that was between 2 teams from the STEM High School and 2 teams from Pickerington, looks like the STEM High School has won 28-1.
Wow, what a dominant victory. STEM High School being able to move the score so far in their favor that the other team was only able to score 1 point is absolutely fantastic from them. Fantastic to see.
Yes, but still a very good showing from the teams from Pickerington. And they do have 2 other teams that are going to be in the 4th quarterfinals match, so who knows, they might still end up in the final matches.
Absolutely, they did have some teams near to the top of the seeding order. So let's see how Pickerington is able to fare in their other matches.
In our next match, we are going to move back to the red field. On the blue side, we have 2 teams from Firestone High School, teams B and D, 7316. And on the red team, we have 1 team from the National Inventor Hall of Fame STEM School, Team E, and 1 team from the Mahoning County Career and Tech Center, Team A.
Just judging from the reactions from the last match, it seems as if the Red Alliance won because something was said over the microphone, and everyone on the Red Alliance jumped up, and some of them even squealed. So it looks as if they were the victors in that match. But again, we'll get the final score in just a little bit. As we move over to the red field, we're going to see Firestone High School in an alliance face up against STEM and another school. I think you said that earlier.
Mahoning County Career and Tech.
That's the one. So the autonomous period is starting now. So the Blue Alliance aligning themselves, but being caught by their other team member who shot but missed at the post. Let's see if they're still able to get anything done. No, I don't think so. It looks like a very uneventful autonomous period for both teams.
So it looks like red won. They managed to switch 2 flags. That's another thing about autonomous. It can be a little tricky when you have alliances. Unless you manage to sit down and talk with your alliance about exactly what your autonomous does, you might run into each other and stop each other from scoring, and that can cost you those crucial 4 points, especially in a close game like this.
Absolutely. The interesting thing about the way they've changed the game is that now you can, work directly with only 1 team member, so you know what your autonomouses are going to do together. But if you get paired with a team where your autonomouses just don't mesh properly, you can really have some problems there. There's no way to really change it up. And speaking from experience, you can't just create a new plan for the autonomous at the competition. It takes rigorous testing and development in order to make an autonomous period work in the way that you want it to consistently.
Yes, the actual teams, the actual coders on the team have to work very hard to make sure that it works consistently. Luckily, the fields are set up the same way every time so that they can kind of practice to make sure that it will, in fact, work. The only factors that they can't account for are the other robots.
Yeah, it's not some kind of crazy robot sentience that the robots are able to do what they do. The field is set up in a consistent manner, and they're able to run tests dozens and dozens of times in order to get the result that they want and make sure that it's going to work when competition comes around.
There's a lot of practice, and in fact, a lot of the teams here are here just as clubs. They don't have classes in the school that offer them robotics training or engineering work. With 15 seconds left in this match, it looks like Red may take it. Red has managed to turn a whole string of flags, a couple of high flags, and taken the top and bottom goals for themselves. However, Blue is still taking the last few seconds to try to turn a few of those flags and score a couple of posts. So it looks like this match may be very close.
Yeah, the Red definitely has some of the flags, but Blue also has some for themselves, as well as some caps that have been scored. But the parking on the Red side is definitely, I think, going to be a determining factor. Those 9 points that they've scored, one for the low park and one for the high park, I think are going to have a big effect on the score of this game. So I think that'll be a deciding factor whether or not that pushes them over the edge.
Now, in the last match that we watched before this one, the scores have come in, and the Red team won 22-10. So that was Firestone High School team 7316T and Mahoning County Career and Tech Center Engine Nerds number 1 7882A. Now we just finished our autonomous period over on the green field. It went to the Red team. The Red team is 2 teams from Pickerington High School Central, so it looks like Pickerington had all 4 of their teams in their quarterfinals, which is a great showing for them. On the team that they're facing, the Blue team, it looks like we have the Cleveland Heights High School team 95915A and team 12465 from Cochin High School, and that is the icosahedra.
That is an intensely complicated name.
Looks like they might have mashed together a couple of shapes and...
Actually, I think that is a 3D polygonal shape itself, but I could not tell you how many sides it has. I think it's a lot. Potentially 120, I'm not sure.
All right, well, props for creative names. Let's see how well their robots fare. It looks like Red is making a very fast showing at the beginning, flipping 2 whole posts of flags and moving around pretty quickly, but Blue seems to be focused on caps. Nearly all of the caps were blue a second ago, but it looks like Red's now flipping them. This is a very fast-paced game, but now Red has all of the flags. If they can manage to keep Blue from flipping any back, that's a lot of points for them.
Keeping all of those flags on the Red side seems to, or not on the Red side, but on any of the sides, I think seems to be a really dominant strategy. It can really, strike fear into the hearts of the opponents and make them, a little more stressed, a little more exasperated. And rather than getting the precision that they need in order to work properly, it can cause them to have some issues. Although you'll see this Red Alliance is absolutely playing very well. They've got both of the parks. If they can get the second robot on there, they have 2 seconds left, and they're going to be able to do it in the very last second. They get those parks done with all of the flags in their favor, and 2 parks, the high and the low park.
So it looks like Red may take that round. Let's see if the scores are in from the last round. It looks like it was Red to Blue, 25-13. So that means progressing on to our semifinals, we will have a team from the National Inventor Hall of Fame STEM School, 60883E, and a team from the Mahoning County Career and Tech Center, Team A, 25-13.
All right.
Now, once we get the information in from this last match, that will conclude our quarterfinals, and we'll be able to move on to our semifinals. There will be 2 matches in our semifinals, and then we'll be able to move on to our finals. It looks like our first match from our semifinals, we will have the 2 teams from the National Inventor Hall of Fame High School, teams A and B, and we'll have a team from Firestone High School, 7316T, and a team from the Mahoning County Career Tech Center, team 7882C. That'll be our first match when we come back for semifinals. And once we get the final scores for our last match, we will let you know. Oh, and it just happened. So it looks like the two teams from the Pickerington Central High School, 131 to 6. So they'll be moving on to semifinals as well.
All right. I think we're going to take a short break for some giveaways within the arena, but when we return, we will be presenting for you the semifinal matches of the Akron VEX Robotics Qualifier.
Thanks so much. Stay tuned. These are going to be our last 3 matches of the day. Our 2 semifinal matches and then our finals match. So, of each of these 2 matches, 1 alliance will go on to the finals match.
Yeah, so these matches will be the proving grounds that will decide the people who will play in the finals of the tournament, and the victors of the finals automatically qualify for states. And then there are a couple of other awards that will be given out after that will also give qualifications for the state level competition.
Now, we did just give out a couple of awards just now that are based on other skills other than the direct competition. We do have a programming competition where the students are focused on scoring as many points as possible when they are the only robot on the field from a programming perspective that is a complete autonomous run. And then we have a driver competition award where the student will drive the robot for 2 minutes and score as many points as possible without any other distractions or other robots on the field. So those are conducted on our back field called our skills arena. Those scores are actually uploaded and posted against all other student teams internationally, and those can be qualifiers for states and for international competition as well.
Absolutely. So the top 20 teams in Ohio that haven't already qualified for the states competition will be filled in through that skills list. You can also, depending on how high your score is on the world stage, you can actually directly qualify for the world's competition if you're good enough at those skills challenges. Those skills challenges are just another way that we offer problem-solving mechanisms for students. The programming skills, as my partner over here mentioned earlier, is 1 minute on the field with no other robots, and you just use that full 1 minute to score as many points as you can without touching the robot. It's entirely autonomous, pre-programmed code. And then the driving skills is 1 minute, but with driving. It's the same thing, but you drive. So we're going to, I think, be moving into this first semifinal. Yeah, the autonomous has begun. We're going to see some shots being taken at the flags, but I don't know if we got any hits on them.
It looks like we may have, on the red side, descored some of the blue flags, and red has placed itself on the platform. So it looks like red may take this one. Yes, red gets the autonomous. And another thing about the autonomous period is that opposing teams with their scout in the crowd can watch and figure out what the other team can do. So if they are aware that the other team focuses on getting onto the platform during their autonomous, they can make their own autonomous to try to block that.
Absolutely. A lot of teams will have different variances in the terms of autonomouses that they write. So they'll write one for getting on the platform, one for taking some shots at the flags, and they'll choose which one they use that best suits the competition that they're up against. That's definitely a very high-level strategy. You don't see a lot of teams, especially teams in the lower level of competition, going for that. But it is definitely something that higher teams can use to get an edge against other teams and win more of the matches.
Yeah, so it looks like we have we have 2 red teams that are focusing on shooting, but it looks like they've already flipped most of the caps in their favor. So the blue team, it looks like one is running around trying to change that, and then one is trying to flip the flags back, but we don't seem to have any blue shooters just yet. And there are 2 robots in the corner that are fighting over one flag to make sure it gets flipped back and forth. It looks like the teams from the National Inventor Hall of Fame School, the red teams, may have solidified their strategy of just taking all of the flags and then blocking anyone from flipping any after that. Yeah. So we'll see. We do know that one of their robots for sure can get up on the platforms, so we'll see if that's their strategy now. It looks like the red is hopping onto the blue platform to make sure that no blue robot can get onto it. So that's a more offensive strategy because they could score points while being on their platform, but instead they choose to move on to the blue platform. But after realizing the blue team cannot get onto their platform, they move back to score the points for them. This looks like it's going to be a pretty clear red victory, but we'll find out momentarily.
Yeah, the red has all of the flags in their favor. They also have both of the parks. The blue does have at least one high cap scored. Yeah, they have one high cap scored, so that's going to be at least 2 points towards the blue alliance. But this is definitely going to be, I think, a decisively red-sided match. We'll see what the final scores come out to, but I think both sides have sort of realized the situation, and without an official count, they still know who's come out victorious in this one. And we're immediately hopping into our next semifinal over on the green field. Over there we see, I think it looks as if the blue team is going to take the autonomous as they're able to flip the flag, unless red is able to respond in a meaningful way.
Red has flipped 2 flags and is on the platform, so the platforms will cancel each other out. It looks like red flipped 1 more flag than blue.
Yes, but do take into account the fact that the high flag counts for an extra point, counts for 2 points, and the low flags count for 1. So we'll see how this goes. This might be a tie. I'm not sure.
We'll see if you can see the man in the referee shirt and the cowboy hat. He is our referee in charge of autonomous and final scoring, Mr. Chris Morris.
He is the head ref. And
looks
around
like a red
we
to the red team.
Yeah, all right, you were right. The red team has taken the victory in this match. Actually, now that I look, I see that they were able to actually uncock some of those caps as well, which I think put them ahead in the scoring. So those 4 points are going to go into their advantage, and the red team is going to start trying to score some of their flags and their caps. The blue's going to return a high flag. They're taking some pretty accurate shots, and they're going to return the other high flag on that side. Although it bounces back, it doesn't quite lock into position. Those flags are designed so that they can lock into the positions middle, blue and red, which means that they don't do that kind of jiggling motion. Although it seems to have happened on that high flag for the blue team. That is quite unfortunate.
Yeah, it looks like the blue team is focusing on flags as well. Now, if you think about it, the flags, the top 2 are 2 points, and the bottom one is 1 point. So if you manage to score all of the flags, you get 15 points. And in a game that you can score a maximum of 46 points, that's rather a lot.
Yes, it is. And so I think we see a lot of teams going for that flag scoring strategy. Red is starting to return some of the caps, but blue actually at that point had quite a few of the caps scored in their favor. Nobody going for any high cap scores at this point in time. It seems as if those take like a pretty long amount of time, so not as many teams opt to go for them unless they're really, getting down to business in the competition and they're really putting the heat on the competition. It seems as if right now the current strategy that a lot of top teams employ is flipping the flags and going for parking scores.
Yes, because if you focus on one rather than the other, you can usually move a little bit faster because your robot's a little bit lighter and you can focus on doing one thing really well. It looks as though the red team is trying to get onto the high goal, but it looks like they might just make it onto the red goal, and they're helping each other. Oh, it looks like the red team fell off of the top one, but they will take that bonus for being on the red platform.
Yes, and I think the blue team also fell off of their low platform as well, so this is definitely going to be a very, very close match, as the flags are relatively evenly distributed, as are, it seems, the caps. I can't quite see all of them from my vantage point, but it seems as if actually more of the caps are red than blue, but red does have the park and the autonomous. This is definitely going to be one of the closer matches that we've seen so far.
So we'll see that in just a moment. We're going to take a look and see if the final score has come in for the first semifinals match. The first semifinals match, the 2 teams from the National Venture Hall of Fame School, teams A and B, got 33-4 against the team from Firestone High School, paired with the team from the Mahoning County Career and Tech Center. So it looks like that team is going to be moving on. That was actually our top 1 and 3 teams when we moved into alliance selections. So they'll be moving on to our finals. I do believe that the 2 pairs of alliances that get into our finals will be going to state competition.
I'm not sure if all the finalists make it or if only the champions make it. I'm not sure.
It depends on how many people have already been sent to states.
That's true.
So if they have other competitions in the state that qualify you for state competition, they will divide up how many slots there are to which competitions. So as the year goes on and more competitions happen, the number of spaces for states will run out.
As more and more teams qualify, they're going to because once you qualify for states, you still get to compete, you still get to refine your robot, and you still get to go into those competitions and make sure that you're at the top of your game. So teams will sometimes win multiple qualifying tournaments throughout their run, which means that those spots don't get picked up by a team that hasn't already qualified yet.
So those get passed on to other competitions.
Oh. Actually, a very interesting turn of events. One of the poles was bent to the side for the course of the match, and that prevented scoring from one of the teams. So this semifinal match is going to be replayed. I'm not sure if they're going to stay on the green field or move over to the red, but my guess would be they'd move over to the red, but I'm not sure. So this match is actually going to be replayed, so we're going to see what happens again, given that the situations are situated properly.
Yes, it looks like they might switch over to the red field since it is already reset, and they don't have the concern about one of the pieces being bent. So these fields are actually some of the fields that the Firestone High School team plays on, and these are fields that are set up and torn down throughout different competitions, different practice sessions. So all of these fields are movable, and unfortunately we don't get a chance to fine-tune everything between every match. But when something like this happens, it can affect the rest of the match. So we do have our team of highly trained refs to make sure that nothing causes the matches to be unfair.
Absolutely. And so the refs have, in this situation, ruled that we are going to replay the match because the issue is determined to be match affecting. Now, one of the rules that VEX has is that issues don't need to be resolved by replaying a match or changing scores if it was not determined to be match affecting, meaning that if they had scored those points, they still would not have won the match, even if that element was not a factor. But I think the refs have determined that had that pole not been bent and had one of the teams been able to score the points, that could have changed the outcome of the match, and so they're going to replay just to be safe, just to make sure that every team has a fair shot at victory. And we see the Red Alliance has moved over to the red field, but the Blue Alliance has not yet moved over to the green field, so we're going to see...
Oh, nope, this is our team from the last semifinals match, because they will be playing the finals match on the red team. So it looks like they're going to reset this field and replay it on this field.
Yes, so the first seed team has already actually set up for the grand final appearance in the red field, so we're waiting on the green field to be reset by our team of expert field resetters. So we're going to see Tiger Tech from Pickerington battle it out again once more against which teams? Sorry.
We have a team from the Mahoning County Career and Tech Center, as well as a team from the National Inventor Hall of Fame School.
And there it is. So those the two alliances between those two teams will be facing off again in the green field rather shortly. It seems as if some discussions are being had between the refs and the players, and the refs and the executives from VEX Robotics, who have been sent down here to make sure that the competition runs properly.
So as we have a moment to let this reset and as I discuss the rules, we're going to take a quick moment to thank some of our sponsors. All of this wouldn't have been possible without sponsors and corporations and parents that have taken the time to really help us out here. So we'd like to thank GDP, who sponsors our robotics program as well as our engineering program as a whole. We get good sponsorship from Goodyear and Firestone Bridgestone, and as well as VEX themselves, who are very great about really promoting the teams and really helping them out, and especially helping us throw events like this. We'd like to thank our Parent Boosters Club, which does some amazing work to make sure that all of our students are fed, wearing matching t-shirts, getting to competitions on time, and also so that we have the money to run events like this and purchase the parts for the robotics program that we need.
The Booster Club definitely does a lot in terms of raising money and making sure that the students have the resources they need to operate pretty much autonomously. A bit of a VEX Robotics pun there for you. But yeah, the Firestone High School team, at least, and a lot of the other teams in the region operate without a lot of advisement. They operate, they build the robots themselves, they program them themselves, and the advisors act, more like advisors rather than leaders of the team who are adults. They help them out and try to lead them to solutions rather than giving out answers and doing the work for them. And I really respect a lot of the programs that do that kind of work and make sure that the students are really learning and that it isn't just about who wins and loses.
If you are a student or teacher or a parent who is interested in getting involved or helping out our club or joining the Boosters Club or even like getting your child interested in some of the programs we offer here at Firestone High School in the engineering and robotics field, please reach out to Dan Spack. I believe his email is dspak, D-S-P-A-K, @apslearns.org. So they're setting up now for the final semifinals match.
And the autonomous period will be starting now. So we see the Red Alliance moving forward. I think they're going to go and try to get that high stack or even the low stack, I think. So they're going to try and get those 3 bonus points from the low stack and flipping a cap and scoring one of the flags, actually 2 of the flags, a high flag and a low flag. Although the blue team has done the same, but getting the cap out and getting that high stack, I think Red's going to take the autonomous period once again.
It looks like they have the same strategy with one robot just moving up onto the platform and one robot flipping 2 flags and flipping a cap. But blue has gotten this by just a point or 2, and it looks like they're going to start their driving match now. So we do have one robot that is frantically flipping caps. That's very important. It looks like one of the red robots is stuck on the platform. They haven't moved. It's interesting whether or not that's a strategy to just stay. It looks like our ref is coming over to double check to make sure everything's all right. If a robot becomes disconnected, if it is user error, then we do not restart a match or change that. And if it is a problem due to our connection, we will go back and check that. So here's hoping we don't have to rerun the match a 3rd time. But it looks like they may be having some technical issues.
Yes, they do appear to be discussing rather fervently with the ref about the issues that are going on with this match. And that team definitely they're definitely having issues. That's absolutely not a strategy. And you can see as the blue team is starting to claim a lot of the flags and a lot of the caps, although the red team has started moving again, which means that the issue has been fixed and the match is going to be played out in this manner. The red team is immediately pulling back as they score a high flag and a low flag, although the blue team does not want that to happen and is trying to contest. The blue team rams into the red robot and is trying to knock it over. That may not have been their intention, but they actually got quite close to doing so.
Yeah, so it looks like the flags may be closely matched. It looks like blue may take that by about 2 to 4 points, if I can do the math properly. They've got about 15 seconds left in the match, and it looks like blue's trying to block red from getting on the platforms. Red is pushing back, and hopefully they'll be able to get on there to change the tides. It looks like blue may take this match, however, and that may be a problem for the red after having connection issues.
Absolutely. I think that definitely had sway in the match, but if a robot is able to reconnect, that does mean that the match is going to be played out in that manner. So I think this match is going to be scored up as is. That is one of the rules that VEX has, that disconnections are not treated in the same way as other match-affecting issues, just because disconnections can be so common. It is unfortunate, but that is the way that it's played out. We will see whether or not it's decided to be replayed, especially if the disconnection only affects one team and is not in any way caused by the user. It does appear as if the ref is discussing with a representative from VEX Robotics to make a final determination on the outcome of this match. So we will be waiting with bated breath to find out what is going to happen to this semifinal match. No matter what happens, it is going to be definitely one of the more memorable matches I've seen this year.
So this is a very interesting semifinals round, both of the matches. We actually only have 4 schools that are competing in this match. So you can really see which schools have kind of dominated this competition. We have the 3 teams from the National Inventor Hall of Fame STEM School in Akron. We have 1 team from the Firestone High School Engineering Club, Firestone CLC in Akron. We have 2 teams from the Mahoning County Career and Tech Center in Canfield. And we have 2 teams from the Pickerington Central High School from Pickerington.
I think we're going to take a short break as the semifinal issues are resolved, because after this we're going to head into our grand final. So if you stay tuned, we will be back very shortly with a grand final match for you.
All right, looks like they haven't touched the field and they're discussing with the VEX reps. So it's really going to depend on whether or not they can determine the issue of the disconnection. So again, if that was user error, they will most likely, they will for sure not restart the match. But if the disconnection error was caused by something that they could not control, they may redo this match as well.
Yeah, I don't know. VEX has been really tough on not replaying matches due to disconnection, just because it's an issue that happens relatively commonly, just due to the nature of using short-range wireless connections as are used in this game. Sometimes connections will interfere with each other, and things don't go exactly as planned. So we'll see what happens. I find it unlikely that they're going to replay, though, and they're going to score the match as is. The refs are headed over to the main table, so we'll see whether or not that's them reporting the score. And they're actually, it seems as if they're consulting with the rest of the refs on what's happening. I don't see Chris Morris, the head ref, anywhere. Do you see him?
Oh yeah, I see him. He's behind other Chris. So his hat is a little blacked out.
Yes. Only seeing the hat makes it quite difficult to identify that it's actually him, but there he is.
Yeah, so it sounds like they made a decision, at least from some of the cheering we hear from the crowd. So we will find out momentarily what the final scores and what the decision is. It looks like from the shape of the field, it looks like the blue team may have taken this match.
Yeah, it's tough to tell, but based on the park and the overall number of caps and flags, it looks as if it's currently tipped in their favor. But you do have to remember that the red team did take the autonomous victory in this match, and we'll see what happens after that.
I believe the blue team took the autonomous in this match. Yeah.
Oh, I thought red did.
I'm not sure. Looks like it's going to be a close match either way.
Absolutely.
It looks as though our ref is explaining to the teams from the National Inventor Hall of Fame team on the red team whether or not he is going to allow them to replay the match.
Are they announcing something? I can't quite hear. I don't know. There's a lot of noise in here. Ooh.
All right, everybody, sorry about the hold-up. We've got our score for that match here.
All right, so they have the score.
9 and blue 22. Blue will be moving on to the next round.
Blue 22, so it looks like blue is moving on to the next round.
So
And
to
they will
conclude
not
our
be changing
semifinal,
that.
we have the victory in one team comprised solely of NIHF STEM high school members, and the other team comprised exclusively of Pickerington High School Tiger Tech teams. So we'll see a showdown between the two of those teams to see who is victorious within this tournament. Both of them took their matches pretty decisively, albeit though the Tiger Tech team did play their match with a situation in which one of their opponents was disconnected for approximately a minute. So we will see how this match plays out. It's definitely going to be an exciting one. Both of them were victorious in their autonomous periods, and both of them have a very good driver-controlled session as well. They have really good strategies.
But they're very similar strategies, so we're going to see how that works. It looks like both teams focus entirely on the flags and then secondarily try to flip the pieces. It doesn't look like either of the teams focus on scoring any of the caps on the posts.
Absolutely. So it may come down to who's able to flip more of the flags back and forth in a more expedient manner. Actually, we're going to present a couple of awards before then.
This award and this competition is a qualifier for the state championship.
So it's a qualifier for the state championship.
The award is 60883A as an alpha.
So it looks like the National Inventor Hall of Fame High School Team A, who is one of our finalists, just won one of our awards for our skills. This is a qualifier for state, so regardless of whether or not they win this match, they will be going to states.
Yeah, so that's one of the awards we're going to be presenting, and the first one qualifies them for states.
Giving out is the Judges Award. This award is presented to a team that the judges determine is deserving of special recognition. Judges consider a number of possible criteria for this award, such as team displays of endeavors throughout the season that they may not fit under existing awards, but are nonetheless deserving of special recognition. The winner of the Judges Award this year is Team 7316F.
Looks like 7316F, one of the teams from Firestone High School, has won the Judges Award. The Judges Award is not a qualifying award for states. However, it is an award that is selected through other factors throughout the competition other than just their scoring. So there are 2 other aspects to this competition that you can win qualifying awards for, and that is submitting an engineering log, which the students keep throughout the year as they work on their robot, detailing all of the changes, all of the tests they've run on their robots. It's really a thought process, an external brain of what the team is thinking as they're moving through the design process for their robot. Then there's also an interview process where the students will go in and talk to the judges and answer questions about why they did what they did and how well they work together. So there are 3 awards that come out of that typically: the Design Award, the Excellence Award, and the Judges Award. So we're going to move on to our final match, in which there will be, we'll determine our first and second place alliances, and we'll determine who will be going to state finals off of this match. So this is one match between these 4 teams. Again, 1 alliance from Pickerington High School and 1 alliance from the National Inventor Hall of Fame School.
Absolutely. So we're going to see definitely a showdown between these 2 schools, and we'll see who comes out on top. And
so they've requested a 3-minute timeout.
Each team gets a 3-minute timeout that they can call at any point through the tournament bracket. A lot of teams save it for later in the tournament, especially if they're confident they're going to make it far. And this 3-minute timeout is going to allow them to talk strategy. So for 3 minutes now, you'll see the countdown timer will start on the television down in the arena. But for 3 minutes now, they'll be able to discuss what they want to do. They're going to be able to discuss how they're going to be able to do that and how they're going to counter the other team's strategy and make sure that they have a winning strategy in mind so that they can come out on top in this match.
It looks like they may be modifying some things and double-checking their connections. It was, in fact, one of their teams that ran into issues in the last match with connections. So they are checking their connections. It looks like they are making sure that pieces and parts are where they belong to make sure their robot is finely tuned for this final match. Now, a lot of the robots this year seem to be using rubber bands, which is a fantastic component to use to pick up the balls in some of their intakes because they're flexible. However, they also run into an issue of elasticity. Eventually they wear out and they have to be changed. So between the last match and this match, if they've discovered some issue, some screws they want to tighten, some pieces they want to replace, they can do that now. However, if it moves them out of the 18 by 18 by 18 square, they will be disqualified for modifying their robot beyond the initial dimensions and qualifying factors.
So pretty much at any point in time when you aren't, on the field and competing, you can make modifications to your robot. Sometimes you find an issue that's being caused by a block or a bar, and you want to remove that. Sometimes you want to add something to your robot, and sometimes something breaks and it needs to be fixed. So you can make changes to your robot, and this 3-minute timeout is actually a really great way to check and make sure that everything is all good on your robots. You don't have any screws loose that could potentially cause issues. You don't have any pieces that are about to break that need to be replaced, and make sure that your robot is working in good condition. So that's something that a lot of teams will use this 3-minute timeout for.
So with this team 6088-3A from the National Inventor Hall of Fame School having won one of our skills awards and already qualified for states, they'll be working to get their sister team, Team B, to also get to states through this qualifying match. Now, I'm not sure if any of the teams have won qualifications from other competitions, but both teams have the opportunity to send 2 teams from their school to states.
Yeah, what a fantastic opportunity, to bring, rather than bringing some strangers who are good, but you don't know that well. You've brought, people from your school here. You're working together, unified as a school. That's one of the issues, I think, with VEX that some people can run into, that there can be, inter-school competition in that, Firestone has 6 teams, and they're all competing to qualify for states. But it's really great to see something like this where teams aren't competing, they're working together from the same school, and really, building that sense of camaraderie within the club. I think that makes, work more efficient. I think it makes people more invested in the program, and it's really great to see some real teamwork coming out cross teams from the same school.
Yes, it's really nice to see students as groups go to these types of competitions, especially because it's a fantastic opportunity just for the club itself to come together and really become a family and a community that they can help each other and move forward. It looks like our 3-minute timer is up, so we're going to move into the autonomous in just a moment.
I'm not sure if you can hear it on the recording, but pretty much everybody in the audience is banging the floor and clapping, making some noise for the beginning of this final match. We are having some technical issues, so that was almost a false start there. But we're resolving some issues to make sure that the match is ready to be started from a technical side. Our final match will be beginning in 3, 2, and 1. There she is. The blue team going for that low park, although they aren't quite up there, so the robot isn't still moving. They are able to reverse one of the flags by shooting, and they're able to reverse another. I'm not seeing if the red team is able to do the same.
Red was able to reverse one, and they've been able to knock a couple of the caps over. But it looks like the blue might take this one. They're evenly matched because they're both set on top of their platforms. But it's going to depend on whether or not the flags actually got turned on the red side.
It's also going to depend on whether or not the blue team is properly aligned into their platform. If they're touching the ground even at all, that's not going to count towards their score. So this is definitely a very close autonomous, and not just because nobody's doing anything, but because the teams are scoring properly, and they're getting points in their favor.
They have a very similar strategy of knocking a couple of the flags over and then also trying to focus on scoring on the platforms. It looks like they may or may not be evenly tied. We'll see momentarily. That looks like they're adding it up, and they want to make sure that this is correct. So they have two of our refs that are focused on doing the scoring.
Yeah, the refs are definitely taking their time, counting up and making sure that they don't get anything wrong, especially in such a late stage in the game. That could really turn the tide of the game. Those 4 bonus points in autonomous can be very meaningful, especially when you have teams competing at the top level, and when they're both going for those cap scores. Or not the caps, the flags, sorry. When they're going for the flag scores, if you get close in the flags, one team gets 5 to 4, that autonomous bonus would push either of those teams above the other. So this is definitely going to be important, and it's definitely a very close autonomous period.
Looks like we have a lot of deliberation over whether or not certain caps are counting.
And we want to make sure we get everything right. And the teams aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about their plan of action moving forward. They're talking. You can see some of the Tiger Tech members are quite animated in their descriptions, describing to their drivers where they should go, what they should do, and how they should get this game moving right. They don't have to worry about counting. They just have to worry about moving forward and getting that strategy moving. And it's great to see such passion from teams at the high level. The blue team takes the autonomous period, so that's going to be points in their favor. And the driver period is starting now.
So you might notice that there are 2 to 3 members of each team on each side of it. Typically, they'll send 3 representatives from their team: the driver, the coach, and the programmer. So they'll send a coach to look at the rest of the whole field and advise the driver as the driver focuses on the area right around their robot so that they can figure out where they want to drive and what their strategy will be. It's always great to have an extra set of eyes, and then they'll have the programmer that can kind of patch fix any issues they run into through saying, oh, well, if this isn't working, try this.
Right. It's definitely very critical to have somebody up there, at least in my opinion, who sort of directs the driver. In a lot of the teams I've run, the driver just sort of does exactly what the coach will say, and as long as there's trust between the two of them, the coach can keep their eyes on the field, and the driver can keep their eyes on the robot. Red has reversed a large number of these flags, taking all of the columns. They are claiming all of the flags in this shootout battle, and are trying to section blue off into small territory of the map.
It looks like that will be 15 points in the red favor. Even though blue will have the 4 points from autonomous, blue is trying to make a comeback and switch the flags, but it looks like red might be able to stop them. We have about 30 seconds in this match, and one of the blue robots is focusing on flipping some of the caps, while the rest of the red robots are focusing on defending the flags.
So the blue team looks to be flipping over the caps, and it looks like they're going to be going for the high goals. The red seems to have a decisive victory in the flags, but we'll see how this goes. If they're able to score some of the higher parks and keep the caps in their favor, this definitely could be advantage towards blue. We're going to see the red team absolutely wrestling the blue team off of that platform, and they're going to knock them off without enough time to come back, and that's going to leave the red team on the top park, and the blue team not able to get any of their parks completed.
Yes,
the crowd is going wild.
Looks like the red team is playing a very, very heavy offense. blocking them from getting onto their original platform and then knocking them off of the top platform. That takes a lot of skill and that takes a lot of coordination between both drivers to work in such a way to beat the other team. So it looks like if I were to predict it, red may have a victory, but it's going to be very close, especially with that autonomous bonus going to blue.
The scores haven't been counted yet, but it definitely looks to be very much red-sided. Fantastic to see an Akron Public Schools team that was only formed last year winning our local competition. You know, I mean, again, the match isn't over yet. The scores haven't been counted, but it definitely looks like a decisive red victory. I think the players even have sort of internalized the results of the match as the refs count up the final score to make sure that everything is documented precisely and make sure that nothing is counted improperly.
Our final score?
And red 23, the red
Blue 9 and red 23. The blue teams will be progressing on to finals.
This is the finals.
Our finals at states.
Oh,
They'll be progressing on to states. So we'll be awarding the final awards to them momentarily. But congratulations to all the teams that participated today. We had a really great showing. It's really wonderful to see how many teams are coming, how many students and parents are willing to give up their weekend to come and compete in a robotics competition. This really is a sport for these students. It's really focused on teamwork and understanding what they're doing and learning, and there's a lot of skill involved as well as just a lot of technical knowledge.
Absolutely.
So we're very excited to see how many students we have here.
Absolutely. What a fantastic final match. It was so close up until the end when Red was able to flood all of their points into those flags and take that top goal. That absolutely turned the game in their favor.
So we have 4 more awards to give out. Our 2 winning prizes for our winning alliance. So that is first place finalists for both of our National Inventor Hall of Fame STEM school teams, 60, 88, 3A and B. And then it looks like we're going to be giving out our last 2 awards that are also qualifiers, which are our Excellence and Design Awards.
Absolutely. There does appear to be a bag of bread brought to the victors, and they're going to be taking some bites of that.
It's like they are getting that bread.
They are in this way receiving the bread. So this is, what a monumental finish, them lifting their robots above the team. Look at the faces. They're all so excited. It's fantastic to see people so passionate about this.
So the next awards that we're going to be giving out, the Excellence in Design Awards, are focused on that interview and the engineering log that we mentioned earlier in this broadcast. So those are decided by our judges, and the Excellence Award is awarded to a team that all around succeeds very well in competition, has a great working robot, wonderful team, and works well together. So the
right now
Design
they're giving out
Award.
the Design Award. The Design Award, well, I'll let Chris Morris explain it.
Project and time management and team organization. Only teams that submit an engineering notebook are eligible for this award. The design award goes to team 6741A from Tire Tech.
So team 6741A from Pickerington High School, their team will take that. So even though they didn't win in the finals, that's still going to qualify them for the state competition. Now the Design Award is presented to teams based on the design of their engineering log, the design of their robot, and a lot of other factors that the judges find important, regardless of whether or not they were able to place high in the competition. Now high placings does definitely factor into the decision, but the Design Award is awarded to somebody who overall has a quality robot design.
The Excellence Award is the highest award presented in the VEX Robotics Competition. This award presented to a team that exemplifies the overall excellence in building a high-quality VEX Robotics program. This team is a strong contender in numerous award categories, and Excellence Award winners must have submitted an engineering notebook. This year, the Excellence Award goes to team 60883A.
60883A, the Destiny Boys from National Inventor Hall of Fame High School. Our champions have also won our Excellence Award. So they've won their Excellence Award, the Programming Award, and the Top Award for the competition. Now the Excellence Award is awarded to a team that is all around a fantastic team, from design of their robot to teamwork to participating in the competitions, good sportsmanship, and pretty much all around a great team. So it's the highest award that can be awarded by the VEX Robotics Competition, and that's including champions of the competition. Excellence
Absolutely.
Award is overall you are the best team here at this competition.
So I think with those 2 awards presented, we are going to be signing off relatively soon as this concludes the 3rd annual Firestone Robotics Qualifier for the VEX Robotics program. So I have been one of your hosts, Charlie Grueller.
And I'm Erica Kraus. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to all of our sponsors and helpers for making this possible for us. All right, hi, I'm Erica Kraus. I'm a Firestone High School alumni, and I'm here to talk to some of our winners here of the Firestone High School Akron qualifying match. So we have here 2 students from the STEM High School. Their team is 60883, A and B, correct?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Hi, I'm Hagen from 60883A.
And I'm Xavier from 60883B.
All right, so can you tell me a little bit about yourselves real fast? Like what year are you in, what's your intention after school, and what got you into VEX Robotics?
Yeah. So I'm a senior, and I'm sorry. What were the other questions?
How long have you been doing robotics, and what got you into robotics?
Yeah. All right. So I'm a senior. I've been president of the robotics club at STEM for the past 3 years, and it was actually a brand new club when I joined my sophomore year. And honestly, I just joined it because I wanted to do something fun and all my friends wanted to do it. And so I kind of just went right in. But it's really affected a lot of my looks towards a career. And I've been thinking of different engineering fields since I've started robotics.
Yeah, so I'm a junior. I'm the driver of my team. I've been doing robotics ever since my freshman year, so 3 years now. Pretty much I just joined because I want to go into an engineering field, and it seemed like a good opportunity for me to learn some stuff, and it also just seemed like a fun thing to do with my friends, so that's why.
All right, as a senior, it's just fun, what college are you looking at, and what kind of career field are you looking to go into? Do you know what you want to major in yet, and do you think that VEX will help you with that?
If you asked me this 2 months ago, I would have said biomedical engineering, and definitely because of VEX. However, after taking chemistry this semester at the University of Akron, my answer to that will have changed. So I am completely undecided, and I'm applying to several places out of state, as well as University of Cincinnati and Ohio State University. And so I'm kind of figure out what I want to do once I get there. But VEX has definitely helped me find out some of the things I'm interested in, whether it's things like networking. I do the alliance management for our teams. And then also I do like mechanical engineering. But, I'll figure it out once I get there.
All right, could you each tell me what you think is the most important part of these matches, and what do you think is your favorite part of these matches?
The most important part of these matches. Honestly, probably the most important thing is if your team can't work well together, then there's going to be a lot of problems. But if the team can gel well, then everything else comes after that. And so really that's the most important part. I'm the driver. I love driving, so that's probably my favorite part, but
Yeah. So my favorite part of the matches is the very end of the 2 different sections, and that'd be the end of autonomous and the end of the driver control, because often in a close match, you see how it ends up at the very last second, and it's really, really intense, and it really sucks when you lose that, but it's also very, 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 very energizing when you win, and it's a lot of fun. But the most important part, like Xavier said, is definitely the teamwork. VEX is 2v2 for a reason. You can't do everything on your own, and you really have to strategize. And that's why we did really well today, because we planned our strategy ever since we paired up together today, and it ended up working out for us in the finals.
All right, so with all of your teams, you have, I believe, 5 teams that are here. How many students are involved altogether?
Yeah, so we actually have about 35 plus members, which has grown a lot from the 10 a couple years ago. So yeah, 35 plus members. We have a couple teams that don't generally go to competitions. So we have in-house competitions the week before, which determines which 4 teams will go. But because Firestone is within APS, we were lucky enough to be able to send all of our teams to compete today.
All right, so is this your guys' first time this year qualifying for states?
Yes.
Yeah. This is our first win as a school in a championship or a match, pretty much. So yeah, first time for both of us.
Yeah, our team has been to the finals twice this year beforehand, and we lost both times. My team was lucky enough to win a few awards earlier in the season, which qualified us already. But this was the first tournament champion victory for STEM ever, and it just feels great for our school.
So it's really exciting, and you guys have been involved for a couple of years. Do you have any advice for students that are just starting out or clubs that are just beginning at their schools, and advice and thoughts about why they should get into it and what they should do to move forward?
So first things first, if you have not been to a competition, get to a competition. Even if your robot does not work. We have both experienced going to competitions without our robots working, and they're still a lot of fun. And once you go to one, you'll see why you want to continue. Aside from that, it is okay to be bad. You're most likely going to be, and if you are not, well then I'm just very impressed. So, it is okay to fail at first, and that is how you're going to get better. It sounds really cliche, but it's true in this situation.
Yeah, honestly, experience is the most important thing. So going to as many competitions as possible is really important, even if you don't think you're going to do well. It's best to just look at what the good teams are doing and try and take inspiration from that, because I started out this in robotics just not knowing what I was doing, and I mean, we weren't very good, and so we've grown a lot as a team, B team, and yeah, so we take inspiration from other teams and put our own spins on it and stuff, so experience is key.